I was thinking today, and I wanted to ask you about this because it only occurred to me much later, but we went through and are still going through the whole Me Too movement. And then I realized 9 to 5, which is 1980.
One of my favorite movies of all time.
Okay.
Truly.
Yeah. And for good reason.
Yeah.
9 to 5. I want to say it's 1980. Yes. That movie is dealing with sexual harassment. And that movie is maybe 30 years ahead of its time because there's a period of time, and you can still see it. You can see these movies where sexually harassing women is kind of a joke.
Yeah.
You know, the guy in the office chasing the assistant around the desk is in New York.
Quaint.
Yeah, it has a quaintness the way people that drank too much used to have a quaintness. Yeah. But today you see it very differently, you know, and it looks very different now. There were comedians like Foster Brooks, whose entire career was I'm drunk, and Dean Martin. And now we have a different view of that. It doesn't immediately seem like a knee slapper to us. The boss sexually harassing women in the office who work for him, you guys made a movie about it that was a massive hit. And it was talking about something I think up to that point had not been, no one had really shone a light on it, I don't think.
Or wage theft. Or guys being trained by a woman who knows the business better than anybody and being promoted right past her.
Right.
All those kinds of things. I mean, they're all still out there in the workforce.
Yep.
I mean, the situation for people who work in offices today, in a way, is worse because now those 3 women wouldn't even know who their boss was, probably would never meet him face to face.
Right.
They're hired by a contracting company that contracts them out to another company. And so who do you go to when who do you complain to? How, you know, and then with computers, which we didn't have then, you can be so easily spied on. It's really hard. I mean, the 3 of us probably would have had 2 or 3 jobs.
Yeah.
In order to be able to afford the lifestyle that you saw us living at that time.
You talked about, I know you've talked a lot about Lily, but Dolly Parton, you bonded with her while making that film.
She is an amazing woman. She
really
is she is so smart, and she's kind of psychic. She's really profound. I'm in awe of Dolly. I love her very much.
And she gave you advice because you had seen your father's reaction to fame, which if someone came up to Henry Fonda and wanted an autograph, he was terrified.
He would run. He spoiled more weekends with me and my brother when he would come and visit us because he and my mother were separated. He would take us to Rye, New York, and he would take us there, and I'll never forget. A woman came and asked for his autograph, and he ran, and he was in a bad mood all day. It ruined the whole thing for us. He hated it. I mean, I don't know why, but he just hated it. And I was with Dolly. We went on the road. She was so grateful for me casting her in the movie 9 to 5. And I was preparing to do a story of a hillbilly, illiterate woman based on a book called The Doll Maker. And I needed to go there and meet those people. And Dolly, I said to her, "You're the only hillbilly I know." Can you help me?
And you know it's cool. You can say that to Dolly Parton, and she's cool with it.
Yeah, yeah. I want to meet somebody who lives in a holler with no electricity or anything, so I can kind of flesh out my character. I went to Nashville. I stayed with her and her husband, Carl. That was an experience in her house. Carl cooked us breakfast. I said, "How did you 2 meet?" And he described the first time he saw her. He was driving a truck past a 7-Eleven, and there she was in the parking lot drinking a Crown Cola. And he was just sitting at the breakfast table. He said, "No, you don't understand." It was like, and he fell over backwards.
Now that is love. Describing how you met your wife.
He is a handsome man.
Yeah.
Boy, I sang backup for Dolly at the Grand Ole Opry. Oh my God. And anyway, she put me on her tour bus with 3 or 4 friends of hers, and we spent 10 days touring Appalachia, Missouri, the Ozarks, Arkansas, and I ended up meeting somebody that I went back and lived with and chopped their wood and milked their cow and so on and so forth. So here we were on the road in the back hollers, with people who lived in tar paper shacks. Dolly came, and it was her tour bus, and she had the stateroom at the end. I never saw her not looking 100% Dolly Parton. The wig, the whole thing. going to see these people. She presented herself just like they hoped she would. And I thought, yeah, that's how to do it. You've got to love those people who like you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And oh boy, does she have fans, and she just loves them and appreciates them. And she taught me a lot. She didn't say anything.
So she showed by example.
She showed by example.
Yeah. It's funny, when I was very young and I would meet one of my heroes, which would happen occasionally, I remember the feeling. In my case, it was John Candy, and I would have been 17. Well, how old would I have been? I would have been about 20 years old maybe. And I was in college and I met John Candy, and he was one of my comedy heroes. And I was nervous about meeting him because I thought, well, sometimes you run into a famous person and they're cold. They're not who you thought they were. And he was everything I could have wanted him to be times 10. And I remember to this day, the joy that gave me, that what he was demonstrating to me was, it's real. I really am that person that you like. And that has stayed with me forever. I've always wanted to be that way.
Good for you.
If I run into anybody anywhere, I want them to know that they're
that it's okay.
If you thought I was that person and you like me for that reason, I am that person.
Yeah.
And if it means that we sit and talk for 15 minutes, then we do.
Yeah.
It's
so cool.
I'm glad that you found your way.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about your dad in the selfie era. If you think he hated an autograph.
Oh my God.
What's that?
TMZ.
Henry, that wouldn't have gone too well.
No.